Welcome to my first vegetable garden. For 2018, I know that it's 2017, but for 2018, I'm really going to focus on the new vegetable gardener. And I will be doing videos in real time, which means as I'm doing something in my garden, Maryland Zone 7, you can follow along and do the same thing. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and you will get updates when I'm doing something new in the garden. Now today I want to talk about bagged mixes and just give you a little bit of education on what they are, why you would buy them, what you would use them for, and a little bit about the cost. Before we get to that, we really have two types of soil. We're going to be growing in containers, so you're going to want your container mixes, your container soils. We'll talk about what would make a great container mix or a great container soil. And then out in my garden, and your garden, you have your garden soil. You might have raised beds, you might have earth beds. Either way, we call that garden soil. So, out in the ground, garden soil, in containers, container soil. Now, what gets confusing is when you go to the stores, you're going to see all kinds of different bags. Starting here on the left, this is the most inexpensive. This is topsoil. Topsoil will cost you somewhere around $2 for a 40-pound bag. It's nothing but usually sand, clay, and dirt. There's no organic matter in there. There's no peat moss. There's no fertilizers. It's just plain old dirt. It's like what you would find out in your gardens, out in the ground. As you progress, you come to stuff that's called garden soil. This is a 1 cubic foot bag of garden soil, so you have to pay attention to the size. The bigger bags will be more expensive, of course, but I'm going to give you a couple of prices to keep in mind. So a 1 cubic foot bag of garden soil will cost you somewhere between $3 and $5. You don't really need to pay more than that. What's added to this is something called forestry products, which is just code word for wood. So there's a lot of shredded wood in there, pine bark, wood from different sources. Sometimes they even put wood from pallets into here. So you start with the topsoil, they add in a woody material, and garden soil is designed for your earth beds out in the ground. It's not designed for containers because it compacts too much, it oversaturates, and there's no space in there really for roots to grow. I've grown in garden soil before in containers, but it's really primarily used for filling up your raised beds and your earth beds. Now as we progress across, and remember to this they added a little bit of peat moss and then wood product. Then as you progress we get to something called raised bed soil, and that's kind of new. That's been out for a couple of years now. We'll get back to that in a second. Then you come to your potting mixes. The potting mixes are more expensive. They come in 1.5 cubic feet, about 40 liters, and they're going to cost you anywhere from $6 or $7 to $14 or $15 for comparatively the same size bags. You don't need to pay that much. Try and stay around $7 or $8. Potting mix is used for your containers. Also, you could, technically call it container mix, but it's all bagged as potting mix. Potting mix is your topsoil with a lot of wood mixed in it, a lot of peat moss mixed in it, perlite, vermiculite. You can see this is really woody. That's all shredded wood. I don't really like this mix, and I'm not recommending any of these specific brands. I just want to educate you on them. But what the potting mix does is it holds water, it absorbs water, but it doesn't get oversaturated where it would drown roots, and it doesn't overcompact where there'll be no airspace. So potting mixes is the reason. The potting mix is what you want to use in your containers because it's loose, it's fluffy, the roots will grow well, and it will hold water. Now I like this mix a little bit better. Less woody product, more peat moss. So this is a little bit more expensive. To keep it simple, I'm going to do the next video on planting your lettuce seeds, your cool weather crops, and we're going to use the potting mix here. And again, please subscribe to my channel because I'm going to show you how to make this and save a lot of money. We're going to use basic garden soil out in the garden or that topsoil and peat moss and a couple of different things. But I'll show you how to do that as this year progresses. Even though it's 2017, let's say we're starting 2018 right now. So you have some idea of what to use in containers. That would be your potting mix. And then what to use out in your garden soil, which would be the first two things I showed you, the topsoil and the garden soil. Now, you have raised bed mix. Now raised bed mix is really between potting mix and garden soil, and all it really does is have more peat moss. So if this is if this is priced well and comparatively priced to the garden soil, go ahead and buy it, but don't spend extra money for raised bed soil. Go ahead and use the garden soil. Whatever one's the cheapest by volume, either a cubic foot, 2 cubic feet, go ahead and buy that. You can use garden soil or raised bed soil in your earth beds, in your raised beds, but this works perfectly well and it's usually cheaper. Hope you enjoyed the video. It gives you some idea of what these bag soils are used for, what they mean, how much to pay, and how to use them in the garden. And the next video is going to be really using the potting mix in containers and planting lettuces. Thanks for watching.